I awakened the strongest SSS level ability in history. Annotation. Can freely define any form of all things in the world. But in practice. Mark a table. Only the word furniture appears above it. Mark a zombie. It only shows danger. So I thought this ability could only exist. Add a useless label to the object. So when I was about to die from a high fever at the end of the day, my girlfriend Han Jiangxue was holding it. He handed over the last fever injection that could save my life. A man who had awakened the Vajra arm ability. Before leaving, he pushed me onto the dirty mattress. His voice was as cold as the apocalyptic wind. Mosey, don't blame me. What use can your annotator have? Bringing along you, a tired like. We all have to die. In despair, I stared intently at the quilt. Welded steel security door. A ridiculous thought arose. A flash flashed through my burning out mind. Mark the wooden door. The next second, that impenetrable iron gate. In an instant it turned into a fragile wooden door. Immediately the door was easily broken open by zombies. But I looked ahead. The horde of corpses swarming in burst into laughter. So my ability isn't useless, but the creation of the world. This means that words arise from the Dharma in accord. It is the divine authority that defines all things. Then my gaze swept over the very front. Only zombies that were about to pounce on me. His thoughts stirred slightly. It was as if the movie had been paused. Labeled dolls. Then my gaze was sharp as a god. He swept across the entire horde of corpses like a punishment. Hold the still doll. The whole world instantly fell silent. A dozen zombies of all kinds. The fierce stance is forever frozen in place. But this operation also caused a huge drain on my mental energy. The dizziness brought by the high fever hit me again. I looked at my burning body. Focus your thoughts on the source of the disease. Uncle Biao. Healthy. Moment. A cool sensation spread throughout his limbs and bones. That tormented me all day. It almost burned me into a fool's high fever. In just a few seconds, like ice and snow melting, and completely withdrawn. Is this the power of God? And after his body recovered, hunger surged like a tide. They took away everything that could be eaten. All that remained was a mess on the ground. Dusty and murky sewage. And a few dirty, hard bricks. I walked up to that puddle of sewage. Lay down your body. He extended his finger. His thoughts immediately activated. Indicate the purified water that can be referenced. It immediately emitted a musty and fishy smell. The sewage became clear and transparent. I picked up a pool of water and brought it to my lips, taking a sip. Clear and sweet. When brush and ink are in use, any bottled water I've ever drunk tastes good. This solves the drinking water problem. Next is food. My gaze fell on those bricks again. I picked up a piece and weighed it. The hard texture and heavy weight are incredibly real. A playful smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Instructions are issued. Label the bread as fluffy. The next moment, a piece of piping hot freshness. It was as if freshly baked bread appeared in my hand. I took a small piece and put it in my mouth. The outside is crispy, soft inside, carries a hint of just the right sweetness. I sat on the ground. A sip of pure water. A bite of bread. Enjoying the most luxurious feast of the apocalypse. Eat and drink. I started thinking about my next steps. I need some tools for self-protection. My gaze fell on a broken steel pipe. It is rusty. The cut edge is sharp, felt heavy in my hand. Marked as a sharp and lightweight alloy dagger. The steel pipe in his hand was in his hand for a moment. Stretched and transformed in the light. In the end, it became a smooth and flowing style. A silver short sword gleaming with cold light. I waved my hand. Next to it is a metal shelf like this. Like tofu, it was silently sliced open. With weapons. My sense of security increased greatly. But having weapons alone is not enough. I examined the worn-out sportswear I was wearing. Annotation. Level 3 protective clothing. The material of the clothes changed instantly. Become tough and resilient. A faint aura of energy appeared on the surface. Then I gripped the short sword tightly in my hand. Push open the back door of the warehouse. The outside world was in chaos. Abandoned vehicles blocked the streets. A few wandering zombies caught my scent. They roared and surrounded me. I couldn't even be bothered to use the short sword in my hand. His gaze swept over them. Harmless kittens. Twisting and howling in midair. To Yuan's transformation into a cat's meow. The stiff bodies of several zombies quickly shrank and deformed. A few seconds later, a few more heads appeared on the ground. The kitten rubbing against my pant leg. Subsequently, I walked straight to the street where a tire had been uninstalled. A battered pickup with shattered windows. He opened the car door and got in. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Close your eyes. Military-grade explosion-proof off-road vehicles with well-maintained performance are labeled. Moment. A fierce metallic friction and the sound of reorganization sounded beneath me. The next moment, a matte black armored vehicle. An explosion-proof off-road vehicle appeared beneath me. There's even a thoughtful addition of an in-car GPS. It shows a map of the entire city. I stepped on the accelerator. The steel beast transformed from scrap metal. In an instant, they rushed onto the open road. On the way, I turned on the car radio. Inside, there was only the rustling sound of electricity. Annotation. A super radio capable of receiving all frequency bands. The rustling sound disappeared. Instead, a man's anxious voice rang out. This is the survivor base in the east of the city. We are located at Golden Cat Shopping Center. We have food, water, and armed protection. Any survivors who hear this, please gather as soon as possible. A cold smile slowly curled at the corner of my mouth. I remember Han Jiangxue and Wang Pe. The direction of escape was the east side of the city. It really takes no effort to get it. A moment later, I arrived at my destination. Several people holding hands around the shopping center. Armed men patrolled back behind the defensive line. My explosion-proof off-road vehicle is making too much noise. Quickly caught their attention. A leading burly man raised his fire axe. He shouted loudly, "Stop the car." "Who is it?" I slowly pulled the car over outside the defensive line. "Push the door and get out of the car." My appearance stunned those men. Driving this car alone. A modified beast. They crossed half the city unscathed. This itself represents a kind of strength. The burly man leading the group softened his tone a little. "We are from the East City Survivor Base." "Who are you?" "Ink White." "I am speaking to the point." A short man behind the burly man suddenly cried out in surprise. "Aren't you the one who followed Han Jiangxue and Pagu?" He didn't finish his words, but everyone understood. That useless ability user. The burly man's expression changed instantly. From vigilance to lightness and suspicion. And I just looked at him calmly. "Is your base still hiring people?" "Our base doesn't keep idle people. Especially those that are of little use." "Have I used?" "You don't say it." My calmness and confidence left Zhang, who somewhat elusive. He hesitated for a moment. Still, I decided to follow the rules. "If you want to enter the base, you can. But inspections must be conducted. And show your abilities." This was Boss Wang Chang's rule. Okay. Under Zhang, whose leadership, I broke through the defensive line, entering the interior of the shopping center. About 200 to 300 survivors had gathered in the hall. Most of them had a dish on their faces. His expression was numb. Soon, a burly figure, a man with a full beard, walked over. He was Wang Chang, the leader of this base. A strength-type enhanced ability user. Wang Chang's voice was loud and clear. He carried an undeniable authority. "You are Mobi." "It's me. I heard your ability is annotated. Show us it." He pointed to a fire hydrant nearby. I nodded and walked over. He reached out and gently tapped the fire hydrant. Annotation. Less than 3 seconds. One made of pure gold. A gleaming fire hydrant appeared before everyone. The entire hall fell silent. Everyone was stunned by this miracle before their eyes. The scene left people utterly stunned. Wang Chang's breathing grew heavy. He suddenly turned around to look at me. His eyes were filled with fanaticism and greed. I withdrew my hand. Calmly said, "I can change the properties of matter. To avoid exposing the definition of everything. This is an unbelievably unbelievable truth." I temporarily disguised myself as one. A capacity for material transformation. But that was already shocking enough. Wang Chang's attitude made a complete 180-degree turn. His face was beaming with a smile. He warmly held my hand. "Brother Mo. Welcome to our East City Survivor Base." I pulled my hand back. He asked softly, "Where are Han Jiangxue and Wang Bo?" Wang Chang said with a smile, "They went out to gather supplies. Probably back soon." The words just fell. A commotion came from outside the shopping center's main entrance. The roar of cars and chaotic footsteps. A look of joy appeared on Wang Chang's face. I turned to look toward the main gate. A silent smile curled at the corner of his mouth. The main event was finally about to begin. A group of 10 werewolves rushed in from outside. Leading the group was none other than Wang Pe. However, his face was somewhat pale. But his gaze remained proud. Following behind him was Han Jiangxue. She was actually clean, but his expression was tense. He looked utterly shaken. As soon as Wang Pe entered, he slammed his backpack hard onto the ground. He rode angrily. Damn it. There was actually a mutated zombie in that hospital. It's too fast. Bogo, don't be angry. It's already good that we can come back safely. And when the two of them saw the quilt, when I was surrounded by everyone, their expressions instantly froze. Han Jiangxue cried out in shock. His eyes were about to pop out. Wang Pe was also utterly incredulous. How could you be here? You are not dead. I did not answer their questions. Just smile and look at them. It's like watching two clowns. Long time no see. Wang Pe was the first to react. He walked quickly up to me. His gaze sharpened as he questioned. How could you still be alive? Did someone save you? Yet I have no interest in explaining it at all. I just looked up at Wang Pe's lead. Proud arms gleaming with metallic sheen. Wang Pu, you've always felt yours. The Vajra arm is the most noble supernatural ability. Is that right? Wang Pe proudly lifted his chin. My power. It can easily tear through any enemy. I chuckled. Then, in front of everyone, he raised his hand, pointing from afar at his arm. Label the freshly cooked noodles. His thoughts descended like divine oracles. The next second, a sudden mutation occurred. His proud glint flickered, the metallic sheen of the Vajra arm. In an instant, it turned into a limp stick. There were even noodles steaming with a hint of heat. The entire hall fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes widened. Wang Pe himself was stunned. He stiffly lowered his head. The brain went blank. He charged at me like a madman. He grabbed my neck with his other intact hand. But he hadn't gotten close yet. The base leader Wang Chong alone. The arrow stepped in front of me. Wang Chong shouted sternly, Wang Pe. But the way he looked at me, but it was filled with unprecedented awe and fear. He finally understood. That golden fire hydrant was basically not all I can do. Wang Pe broke down in tears and screamed. Han Jiangxue was already scared silly. Her face was deathly pale. Lips trembled. I can't say a word. I called her name. She shuddered all over. With a thud, he knelt down on the ground. She wept bitterly and was exiled. Crawling toward me. Big brother. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me. I was also fooled by lard at the time. It was Wang Pe. It's all because Granny Wang forced me. I looked at him and saw no anger in his eyes. No hatred. All that remains is a kind of indifference, as if looking at garbage. Forgive you. You don't deserve it. I gently shook my head. No. Listen to me. Han Jiangxue was still making futile arguments. I looked down at her from above, like a god looking down on a humble ant. The cold river is covered in snow. You value strength, so you choose a pair of Wang Pe's Vajra arms. You think my label is useless. It is a burden. Now let me show you. What is real power? The words fell. I raised my hand and snapped my fingers. A crisp voice echoed through the hall. An unbreakable cage. Immediately, the cold river snow centered on him. An invisible wall of air rose from the ground, trapping her tightly inside. He reached out in terror to touch it. But all I could feel was a cold, hard barrier, created out of thin air. He could even control the air. Cold sweat had already begun to break out on Wang Chong's forehead. Fortunately, I hadn't offended him earlier. Such an enemy is simply impossible to confront. A cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Annotation. A super bait that offers ultimate temptation to all zombies. After I gave the order, Han Jiangxue didn't feel any physical changes. She just looked at me in terror. I don't understand what I did to her. Yet the world outside the mall is still there. At that moment a dramatic change occurred. A distant sound. A roar filled with extreme longing. It came from a corner of the city. This was followed by the second and third sounds. Roars rose one after another, like a beacon fire being lit. It quickly spread throughout the entire silent city. All the zombies roaming the streets and alleys. His face showed an expression that could only be described as fanatical. Thousands of zombies are coming from all directions of the city. They launched a frenzied charge toward Jinmao Shopping Center. The survivors in the hall were terrified, feeling the vibration beneath his feet. Wang Chong and Zhang, whose faces changed dramatically. They rushed to the door, looking out through the gaps in the defensive line. Corpse tied. The corpse tied. Oh my god. The base instantly descended into chaos. The soldiers frantically reinforced the defensive lines. Hurry and block the door. All are ready to fight. Only I remain calm. I looked at Han Jiangxue, who was still confused inside the transparent cage, and said softly, "Did you hear that? Han Jiangxue, all the zombies in the city have come for you." Han Jiangxue finally understood. The color on his face instantly faded. A deeper than death. No, no. Please. Father. Help me. I was wrong. He collapsed to the ground. He pleaded incoherently. I didn't give him any more chances. His thoughts stirred slightly. The unbreakable cage label that trapped him. I changed it to air that could freely pass through. Before you get caught. Run to your heart's content. Well, Han Jiangxue looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Jump up from the ground. He scrambled out the back door. And that sweeping black tsunami, precisely bypassing the shopping center. He chased wildly in the direction Han Jiangxue was fleeing. And inside the hall, Wang Chong suddenly knelt down in front of me with a thud. Her body trembled slightly from excitement and fear. God sent the Lord. As he knelt down, all the survivors in the hall, they all knelt down in unison. My gaze swept over the people prostrating themselves on the ground. Ultimately, it ended up in a forgotten corner. Wang Po's eyes were vacant. Slowly walking up to him, Wang Po looked up. Her eyes were filled only with numbness and despair. End it all. He gave up all resistance. I shook my head. It's too cheap for you. Marked as the thoughtless statue that will forever guard this place. Immediately, Wang Po's flesh and blood body was forcibly forced, transformed into lifeless rock. The fear and confusion on his face. His expression was frozen in place. I looked at the statue. He said to Wang Chong, whose face was already pale with fright. He stood at the entrance of the base. Let everyone who comes and goes remember. What happens to the betrayer? Afterwards, I temporarily stayed at the east base of the city. Most of the time I locked myself in my room. Familiarize yourself with and develop my godlike power. I will use an ordinary glass bead, labeled as gemstones containing healing energy. Then I put this gem. It was handed over to a team member whose leg had been broken in battle. The moment he held the gem, the broken bone heals at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than a minute he was lively and jumping to his feet. I marked a blank notebook as a record. An encyclopedia of all known plant cultivation techniques. There you have it. Survivors can be found in shopping centers. On the rooftop, a vegetable garden is created to be his own. Everything I do feels like a miracle. The survivors' respect for me deepened continuously. But I know that's not enough. I need to establish a new order. So I walked out of the room. He gathered Wang Chong and all the core members of the base. Under their respectful gazes, I announced my first oracle. Article 1. Prohibit internal strife. Anyone, whether superpowered or ordinary people, no one may kill or plunder each other for any reason. Those who disobey will be expelled. Second, labor for food. The base will organize production teams, collection teams, and combat teams. Everyone must make it for the base. Only by contributing can you obtain survival supplies. Those who do not labor shall not eat. Third, absolute obedience. My command is the highest directive. No one may violate this. The Genesis base is developing rapidly under my rules. I also set up a divine skill exchange shop. Survivors can use labor points to come to me. Here you can exchange for some special marked items. For example, an axe that never curls its blade. Bandages that can speed up wound healing. A sonic device that can disperse small area zombies. These things are just small gadgets I casually create. But it greatly improved the base. Productivity and safety. The reputation of Genesis gradually spread through the radio. More and more survivors are seeking shelter by reputation. The scale of the base was achieved in just 1 month. It expanded from a few hundred people to nearly 3,000. But I became increasingly withdrawn. This day, I was trying to mark a drop of water in the room. 4 beings with faint self-awareness. Just as my mental power was highly concentrated. Suddenly, I felt a strange and equally powerful aura of unfamiliarity. His spiritual power swept over from the distant horizon. A cold smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. It seems other false gods have set their sights on my turf. I didn't fight back immediately. Instead, he let the opponent's spiritual power run free. He cautiously probed inside. This guy is hiding behind the scenes. That spiritual power circled around the base. It seems to be orderly here. Anning was extremely shocked. At last, he locked onto the penthouse suite where I was located. One cold and proud. A voice without any emotion. It sounded right in my mind. That voice seemed to come from the heavens above. Filled with undeniable authority. I should ask you this sentence. I respond coldly in my mind in the same way. The other party seemed surprised that I could do this. Easily engage in a spiritual conversation with him. There was silence for a moment. Interesting natives. The place where you are is now mine. Kneel and submit to me. Otherwise, what awaits you is divine punishment. That voice was full of obvious dominance. I laughed. Divine punishment. In this world where I define the rules, who has the right to judge me? I stood up and walked to the window, looking toward the direction from which that spiritual force was coming from. The tallest skyscraper in the heart of the city. Seemingly, it's time to meet this. Other players in the world. A thought crossed my mind. Compulsory repatriation. That feeling that invaded my mind. Domineering spiritual power screamed in agony. He was forcibly flung out of my divine domain. Far away at the top of the sky tower, dozens of kilometers away. A mystery sitting on a throne. The figure suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. My divine sense was shaken. After a while, I was driving that explosion-proof car alone. The off-road vehicle arrived beneath the sky tower. I can feel that powerful force. His spiritual power was at the top of the tower. He was staring at me with a scrutinizing gaze. I walked into the building. There was no one inside. Yet it remained spotless. I headed straight for the elevator. Pressed the button on the top floor. Strangely, the elevator was still running. As the elevator ascended smoothly, that mental pressure grew stronger and stronger. But to me, it's just a gentle breeze. The elevator reaches the top floor. What appeared before me was a luxurious lobby with an entire floor connected. At the end of the hall is a throne made of black crystal. A man sat on the throne. He wore a luxurious vintage aristocratic outfit. He has a handsome face, but his gaze was icy cold, unlike any human in his gaze. A powerful mental field surrounded him. This caused the surrounding space to become slightly distorted. His voice was filled with lofty arrogance. "This city is my domain," I said calmly. The man laughed. The laughter was full of contempt. "Ridiculous natives." He stood up from his throne, slowly walking toward me. "My name is Zhao Tianxiong. At the moment the apocalypse arrived, I awakened the supreme power. Mental mastery. I can control all beings whose mental power is lower than mine. These zombies are just hunting dogs I keep." He walked up to me. He tried to use his mental power to pressure me, although it has some quirky little tricks. But in the face of absolute spiritual power, vulnerable. "Submit to me. I can grant you honor second only to mine." I looked at him, like looking at an idiot. Mental rulers control living beings. What a primitive and rough ability. Meaningless noise. When my annotation dropped, the aura around Zhao Tianxiong was so strong that he could barely, distorting the spatial psychic field, like a popped balloon, disappeared without a trace in an instant. The arrogant determination on his face froze. In its place was unprecedented shock and confusion. My power. He trembled as he raised his hand, trying to refocus his mental strength. But he found his mind completely blank. He retreated in terror. I walked toward him slowly. It turned into a pile of meaningless noise. Noise? He couldn't understand the meaning of the word. I walked over to his throne and sat down. "Don't you love playing domination games? Now let's change the approach. I will take charge. You come to be a toy." My gaze fell on this. In the spacious and luxurious hall. "You don't feel this way. Is it too monotonous?" I snapped my fingers. Suddenly, the entire hall is made of hard marble. The floor had turned into wet soil. Lush green grass has grown. The walls disappeared. In its place is an endless dense jungle. Just a dozen seconds. This luxurious palace stands atop a skyscraper. It has become a vibrant primeval forest. Change the world. This is the true power of the Creator God. I finally understood. The spiritual ruler he was proud of. In front of him. How ridiculous. "What the hell are you?" I rested my chin on one hand and looked down at him. I looked at him. It was like looking at an interesting experimental item. "You deprive others of consciousness. Turn them into shame. Then I grant you the richest consciousness." Immediately, Zhao Tianxiong's body convulsed violently. His gaze began to change rapidly. Endless and endless belong to different things. Species, memory, emotions, and life and death. Like a flood breaking through a dam, washed away. It was his human soul. He clutched his head and writhed painfully on the ground. This is more cruel than any torture. I calmly watched it all. There are no waves in my heart. Wei Xin and the generals abdicated. A new god is crowned here. This is the place I transformed into the sky forest. It became my new base. I sit on the throne. Everywhere I looked, it was my drawing board. I started to follow my own will, relabeling this silent city. I looked toward the polluted industrial area in the west of the city. Poison is everywhere. Barren. The next moment, deep within the earth, a clear spring gushed forth. Where he flowed, the toxins are neutralized. The land is revitalized. New greenery begins to spread. I looked toward the collapsed residential area in the southern part of the city. Countless survivors hid in the ruins, barely clinging to life. The ruins of reinforced concrete are automatically reassembled. Each building has a sci-fi design. It comes with built-in water circulation and solar energy. The system's architecture rises from the ground. I looked toward the source of the corpse tide in the north of the city. In an instant, the space above the crater twisted. This forms a massive vortex of energy. Trying to crawl out of it. The monsters were strangled to pieces. Every annotation I make is there, changing the pattern of the world. 2.5 years later, Wang Chong reported to me on the recent situation in the New World. Finally, he hesitantly asked, "God sent the Lord. We caught a strange person. He had been running on the outskirts of the city. Endless zombies followed behind him. But he always manages to escape at the critical moment. We put in a lot of effort. That's why he was trapped with a stance trap. We find. He was Han Jiangxue. That name is already distant. It felt like something from a past life. I can imagine what he looks like. Don't chase me. Don't chase me. I was wrong. I was really wrong. It's time to wrap up." My gaze pierced through the clouds. It landed on the trapped wolf's miserable figure. A sedimented shell. Han Jiangxue's gaze lost focus. Her life was over. Gradually, time has lost its meaning in my world. I don't know how much time passed. The city I created has already become a megacity with a population of 1 million. It is known as the City of Divine Grace. And my body has long since shed the mortal Xuankai. It becomes something between energies. Existence between matter and matter. My consciousness can synchronize with the pulse of the entire planet. Every breath I take can trigger storms and tsunamis. I truly became the god of this world. But looking at the bustling city beneath my feet, I felt a trace of emptiness in my heart. What's next? What is the meaning of my life? At this moment, I suddenly looked up at the profound universe. I saw countless people like me. The planet beneath my feet is like this. A world being swallowed by darkness and decay. I saw it too. Deep within the universe. That source of all this evil. A faint smile finally appeared at the corner of my mouth. A genuine, battle-ready smile. The boring days are over. I stood up from the throne. Take a step. The next second, I appeared above the city of divine grace. I am about to journey far. To mark a future of eternal brightness for you. After saying that, I didn't linger. It transformed into a streak of light and shot into the atmosphere. At the very last moment before leaving this blue planet, I turned around. She gave him a deep look. Then I left myself last. It is also the most powerful annotation. Marks the miracle that lasts forever.